Okay. Come on. Yeah. Whoops. No. And that's it. There. There's this thing called render data. It contains a couple of clips. So I'll just drag in the render data folder. There we go. Yes. There is, and I will explain. I will try to explain. So this is going to be great fun. So we have a background clip. Actually, it's a background clip without a sky. So if I just press A, you can see that there's a mask. So we can put a sky behind it. Then we have what's called a disco pass. The idea here is that when you render your scenes out of Maya or RenderMan or whatever, in many renders you can choose to mask out certain parts in separate ID paths. So it's called a disco pass because it looks funky. But generally what we have here is that the main car body will be the green thing and the stripes will be the blue thing. So you can use that later to mask out certain areas or tweak them. Let's just take a look at the car here. So this is the car. So you can see that the disco pass matches with the red and the white parts. So you can use that to control what area you want to do something to. So we have, for instance, we have a reflection. That is, the whole car is one big reflection. So we can use the disco pass to control what parts we want reflection on. There's also a shadow pass like before. As you can see, yeah, shadow from the house and stuff. That is there. Good. There is also a shadow from the car. It's here. Just press A to view the mask on it. Then there is a set depth pass. This thing here, it's probably hard to see, but you can see that there's bright and dark areas. So the brighter the image is, the further away it is. So we can use this to create a depth blur effect. So we will blur the image more depending on how bright the colors are. We won't do that on the first run of this. We'll just do the basics and then we'll get back to it. Then we have an ambient occlusion pass. This is a rendering technique that was developed by I think it was ILM or Pixar that developed it. It started getting popular around the time of Star Wars Episode 1, where it was used heavily on especially the robot things. So this is an occlusion pass. Basically creates dark or bright, black and white, depending on how occluded an area is. So if you have something like a deep ridge, that will be occluded. And if you have something that is out in the open and flat, it will be unoccluded. So basically what it does is it takes, if this is our surface, it takes and looks at the hemisphere and see if it hits something. So if this would be like a very bright area because there's nothing occluding it. But if there was like a big thing here, of course that would be quite occluded. It would only be over here that it was getting light. So it's a way to simulate soft lighting effects. Yeah? No, I don't want it. Go away. Then we also have a motion pass. So this is a pass where the color of the pixels are based on where the pixels are heading. So the colors here represent how the car is moving. So we will be able to use that to create another type of blur that will blur the car like a motion blur when things are moving fast. But because the break is very soon, we'll only do like a little bit of it to begin with. So first of all, what I want to do is I want to use this background here, and I want to composite that. And I want something in the background of that. So let's see. I will go to my node up here. I can either do a constant, or I can go to the create here and do a ramp. Yeah. So the ramp looks like this. Ramp. And to give this a certain size, I can just plug in the background there. So now you can see, now I can make this ramp go any way I like. What I think is nice. You can change the color of it, maybe make it slightly bluish, something like that. So that looks sort of okay. This is just to make something in the background. And then I use a merge node. So just select this, press M. Make sure you press it down here, because if you press M up here, it will be something entirely different. M up here shows the matte, so it's a different way of showing your alpha channel, your transparency. So it's like masking in Photoshop. And I want this in the background. Oops, B. Not that one. Should go from that one and then that one in the background. So here I get this. I get a blue sky in the background. Don't mind the arrows or the lines here. They are just a representation of my ramp. But if I just close my ramp over here, you can see it goes away. So if you have like funky controllers floating all around, you can control what you see by having it open over here. Especially if you have a lot of transform nodes. That is quite annoying. This is very blue. We'll just use it for now. Then on top of this, we want the car. Just go and merge the car in. Put that there. So.
What's the point of the ramp? Why can't you just take a blue picture and stuff it in?
I could, but I'd like to have it like just fade a little bit. It's just you generally don't want something to be exactly the same color all the time. So this creates the basics of my my composition. The rest of it is sort of like effects I add to it. So for instance, I want shadows on the houses in the background. So I find the house shadows here, and I take this thing, so merge here, put that in there. So now I merge the shadows on. So you can see that added the shadows. Just disable this. And I can, of course, decide how much shadowing there should be by using the mix. I don't want it entirely black. I want it to be something in between. And that's what I'm talking about with this multipass rendering. That when you do it like this, you will be able to work with it in sort of real-time mode. Whereas if you did this in 3D, you'd have to go, oh, my shadows are too dark. Okay, I'll change it, and then I'll set the farm to render for 2 days. So this is much better, or at least much more efficient. So I'll put that in there. And this one should probably go out here. Makes a little more sense. Then I want the shadow for the car. So that should, of course, be under the car, so it should be here. So I'll go and get the car shadow. Press M. And then move that in between here. So that puts the shadow of the car in there. And again, I can go and say, okay, I want this to be not completely black. I want to be able to see that there's a white line in here. Something like that. And I could also decide that this is too sharp. I could go and add a blur node by pressing B. And then I could blur the shadow a little bit if I like. That's like one of the nice things about node-based compositing, that you can do little quick things like that. So now we have the shadows moving. It's working quite nicely. Then let's try and add the reflection pass. So I go to the reflection, press M, plug it in here, and you'll see I got reflection from hell everywhere. So what I can do now, that is, this thing here has this little line down in the corner, which is the mask. So I'll drag down the disco pass, and I connect this thing So by default it will connect to the alpha channel. So I'll just double click here. And you can see if I just remove everything else. So you can see by default the mask will connect to the alpha, which is could be okay, sort of okay. And I could go and say, I don't want this to be an over, maybe I want it to be an overlay instead. Or maybe I want it to be a multiply node. Or maybe I want this to be a screen node. So that depends on what I want. I can choose different types here. For instance, multiply looks nice and metallic, and then maybe tweak the mix a little bit so I get this. But if I choose a different color than the alpha here, I can choose the green one. Then I'm only affecting the color of the car. Or if I choose the blue one, I'm only affecting the white stripes. Okay? So that's a way to switch around. And of course I could put a little bit of the same thing again. I just put another merge node here, and I make it this thing, and then I put it in here. Come on, connect. Oh, sorry, that was the opposite. I want that one, and then I want that one in there, and I want my viewer there. And then I put this to the mask again, and this time I will use the blue channel. There we go. And then I can just mix it a little bit. So now I'm doing the lines instead. So that way I can mix and match the different parts of the car to the different layer effects. The final thing I'll do here is to add the occlusion parts. And I do that by just making a merge node here. And I'll put it in there. And you can see everything goes white. But I'll use this as a multiplication. So that will, and you should be able to see it, at least if I toggle it on and off. You can see it adds like these dark areas around the occluded parts. But I think maybe it's slightly too dark. So I can again go in the mix here and just tone it down a little bit. So I get some darkness, especially in the tires and stuff. But right now it's pretty okay. So let's play it and see what it is. And you can see the green line here, like in so many other programs, is the caching. So that's it for now. And then after the lunch break, we'll look at how to use these two passes, the set depth and the motion path.